Hi, my name is Alyssa COF, and I'm going to be talking about the legal drinking age. My main claim is that the high drinking age of 21 has negative effects on young adults. The first point I will be making is that the law sends mixed messages to young adults turning 18. The second point I will be making is that teens are tempted to drink at a younger age because of the law. And the third point I will be making is that young adults want to be educated on how to drink rather than being told not to do it. So the first point that I'm trying to make is that the law sends mixed messages to young adults turning 18. When we turn 18, we are legally allowed to vote, smoke cigarettes, serve on a jury, get married, be prosecuted as adults, and join the military. That is 6 things we are allowed to do now that we've turned 18, but we're not allowed to drink. Where's the consistency in the government? So, 18 is the age for everything else, and this law is assuming that if the drinking age were lower to 18, that 18-year-olds would consume more than 21-year-olds. But that's not the case. In the Journal of American College Health, researchers published a survey from college-age students that said, even after 20 years of raising the drinking age, 18 to 20-year-olds consume roughly the same amount of alcohol as they did in the late 70s and early 80s. So what's the point in keeping the high drinking age when people still drink illegally or people still drink at a very young age? Which leads me to my next point. Teens are tempted to drink at a younger age because of this law. 2015 Youth Risk Behavior Survey found that among high school students during the past 30 days, that's 1 month, 33% drank some amount of alcohol, 18% binge drank, 8% drove after drinking alcohol, and 20% rode with a driver who had been drinking alcohol. And if that doesn't prove it, the same survey says that people aged 12 to 20 years drink 11% of all alcohol consumed in the US. That is a large amount considering it is illegal. Another study from the Journal of Economic Perspective showed that when 18 to 20-year-olds were legal to drink in 39 states, who lowered the drinking age to 18, motor vehicle accidents due to alcohol use were roughly the same as 25 to 29-year-olds. The only difference being that the motor vehicle accidents involving 18 to 20-year-olds were in the daytime, and the motor vehicle accidents involving 25 to 29-year-olds were at night. So what's really the issue here? The age we start drinking, or the time of day we drink and operate motor vehicles? My next point is that young adults want to be educated on how to drink rather than being told not to do it. Take, for example, the issue of teenagers having sex. So, high schools used to preach abstinence from having sex. They would say, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, you'll get pregnant, you'll get STDs. Now, high schools, they educate students on how to have safe sex. They offer condoms. You can go to a health center and get free birth control. So why not educate teenagers about safe drinking instead of prohibiting them to do it? Another example would be the legalization of marijuana. Marijuana is recently legal now. Why? Because people are realizing that people smoke weed anyways, whether it's legal or not. Same goes for drinking. The drinking age should be lowered to 18 because, people do it anyways. In the Journal of American College Health, researchers stated, students do not want to be told whether they can drink. They believe that drinking is not only an expected part of campus life, but also an integrated part of the student culture that cannot be changed. Researchers also learned that in terms of informational and behavioral needs, students express both frustration at being taught only to abstain from drinking and genuine interest in acquiring specific kinds of knowledge and skills about drinking. So teenagers are being deprived of that education. So my points were, the law sends mixed messages to young adults turning 18 because of everything else we are allowed to do at 18. Teens are tempted to drink at a younger age because of the law. We're not allowed to drink until we're 21. We're curious about it, so we try it before 21. Young adults want to be educated on how to drink rather than being told not to do it. Schools educate us about safe sex, and now marijuana is legal to be educated about it. There are schools you can go to learn how to grow marijuana, so why not educate people about drinking? And yeah, that's how the high drinking age of 21 has negative effects on young adults.
All right, the proposition's clearly identified. There's a pretty good layout of the secondary structure, so that's good. I think that the argument on mixed messages relies on kind of this hypothetical issue on the question of, well, what message does it send, that sort of thing. The best evidence that you had on this point concerns what the amount of consumption of alcohol is, that it hasn't really changed that much over the last 20 years, and that's not a bad piece of information. However, I think it doesn't address some of the questions that people are talking about that encourage the increase in the drinking age in the first place. The evidence that you did have that talked about that was presented, and it was a little bit confusing because you're talking about when people were drinking or when they had the accidents at night or daytime, and I don't know how that matters to the argument. If there were more accidents or less accidents, that's what matters. The fact that you present this stuff about when it occurs seems to suggest that there's a problem with the way the evidence is used, but you're not explaining why that difference why that difference matters. It was uncertain as to the conclusion that you're trying to draw from that, and it should be much clearer than that. You need data that suggests basically that there wasn't a significant change in the death rate, that the death rates remain static, that the law has had no effect on the number of people who've died over a period of time, has no effect on the amount of drunk driving that's going on. Those are the things that I think would be more effective, and the data that you had didn't quite explain that. It introduced a side issue that I just thought was completely confusing. The other evidence that you had talked about the amount of alcohol that people are consuming at different ages, and that's reasonable, although we don't get any comparative data to when it was legal for those ages, so it would, it might suggest, the only thing that you had was that first piece of evidence that I thought was pretty good, but I think you could use a little bit more on that. On the third point, I'm not exactly sure why it has to be legal for people to learn about it. If that's what people want to learn about, why can't they learn about it? Legality is required in order for people to get this information, to understand it, to develop these habits. That's not quite clear. And by the way, the prohibition, for instance, doesn't necessarily mean that people can't drink. It means that they can't purchase it and they can't consume it in certain places. But like in the state of California, for example, if your parents want to serve you alcohol at home when you're 16, that's perfectly legal. So I'm not exactly sure why it is that you can't learn these kinds of things. You have to have a little bit more explanation on that particular point. I like the summary at the end of the speech. I thought you did a good job on that too. All right, thank you.